I will be portraying Peggy Shippen Arnold. Peggy Shippen Arnold was a traitor to the newly established United States of America by assisting her husband, Benedict Arnold, exchange valuable military information with the British. She also helped to carry information to plan encounters between her spouse and the British soldier, Major John Andre. These actions, as well as the challenges she faced in the aftermath of these treasonous events, helped to change the perception of what the role of colonial women was, and proved that colonial women can manage more than just a household and intelligently contribute to the general well-being of their family. Good morning, Your Majesty. I am here begging for your gracious help. As my husband, Benedict Arnold, travels farther and farther away from home, I find myself in a situation of despair. The money promised to my husband for his noble services in the Revolutionary War is not enough to care for our family. In fact, his meager military salary of £325 is covering less and less of our expenses. You wish to know the circumstances that have placed me here? It is quite a tale. After the British occupation of Philadelphia ended suddenly in 1778, life became rather dull. So, when Benedict Arnold, the newly established 38-year-old military governor of Philadelphia, threw a ball to City Tavern, I was eager to attend. Little did I know that night would change my life forever. When I first met Benedict, I fell immediately in love with him. By the late summer of 1778, the General, my nickname for him, and I were courting. My wish was that I could have married him then. However, my father was against the match. That, to me, was irrelevant. I locked myself in my bedroom and refused to eat or drink until my father relented. He decided that we'd be married in a small ceremony at our family home in Philadelphia on April 18th, 1779. Our early days of marriage were stressful. In fact, on February 1st, 1779, before we were even married, Joseph Reed accused the General of military misconduct. These charges were absolutely absurd. He said that the General profited from the sailcloths of his soldiers and used public wagons for personal use. When news reached the General, he was on his way to New York to look at estates for us, and land was being offered to him at a reduced price for his heroics at the Battle of Saratoga. When news reached the General, he turned right back around and returned to Philadelphia to defend himself. When the General finally returned home, we sat down to discuss our options. By options, I mean whether the patriot tide was treating him as the hero he was. After many hours of intense discussion, we decided to contact my dear friend, Major John Andre, who had just been promoted to aide to General Henry Clinton, a general in the British Army. My dear sister Hannah, I hope that you are doing well. I, on the other hand, am not. I have been slighted many a time by the Continental Congress from receiving true credit for my heroic actions. The most recent of these experiences was at the Battle of Saratoga. During the first battle, I sent out my troops in waves to preserve resources, resulting in a strong front line. Following the battle, General Horatio Gates sent a report to Congress and failed to mention that I was the active field commander. I confronted him about it, and for weeks we exchanged angry letters. By the time of the second battle, we were not on speaking terms, and I had informally been relieved of my command. But as I was preparing to leave, I received word that the Americans were losing, so I rushed out onto the battlefield and saved the day. Gates again failed to mention my role. I decided to resign my commission and have just sent a letter to Congress. Your humble servant, Benedict Arnold. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, Major John Andre. The General sent a letter to Andre through Joseph Stansbury, a Philadelphia-based China dealer. In the letter, my husband offered his services to the British Crown. Andre replied soon after, clearly interested in working with us. This would prove to be extremely difficult, seeing as Andre is behind British lines. Andre asked for troop movements and strategies, but it was important to us that the General be compensated. Thankfully, the General had just been promoted to commander of the left flank of the Continental Army and instead requested command of West Point, citing that he would not be able to actively command on the battlefield because of his injury at Saratoga. George Washington relented, and in 1780, the general took command of West Point. Not long after that, we moved into the Robinson House, which was right across the Hudson River from the fort. Being so close in proximity to West Point allowed us to move along in our plans. I like to believe that I had a role in solidifying this transition. Robert Livingston, the first Chancellor of New York, was close with Washington, and the general and I saw an opportunity to solidify his appointment. I called often on Chancellor, so much that my sister-in-law, Hannah Arnold, sent a letter to the general saying that she thought I was being unfaithful to him. The general disregarded it, knowing what was going on. After many complicated, coded letters, the general and Major Andre came to an agreement on a time and a location for a face-to-face meeting on September 21st, 1780. The whole time my dear husband was gone, I was worried sick. I had absolutely no idea what the outcome of the meeting was going to be, whether it would be good or bad, or what would happen to the husband I loved so dearly. When the general finally returned, I wished to discuss the night's events with him. However, he went straight to bed, clearly mentally drained. At the time, I was planning for a luncheon that I was having for the General Washington, Marquis de Lafayette, and Alexander Hamilton. The General Washington was on his way back from Hartford and was coming to discuss future plans for West Point. When the day of the luncheon finally arrived, I was just beginning to lay everything out when the general rushed upstairs with a panicked expression on his face. He immediately told me what events had transpired. He said that a British spy named John Anderson had just been captured near British lines. John Anderson was John Andre's code name. He had been captured with incriminating papers with the general's writing on it. We immediately took action. Because of General Washington's impending arrival, my husband had to get out of the Robinson house, and fast. He would leave through the back door, and I would feign insanity at my husband's disappearance. Within minutes of the tragic news reaching our ears, my dear husband was gone. Now it was on to my part of the plot. I remember the following events as though they happened yesterday. When the men entered, I began screaming, "My husband will never return! The spirits have carried him over there, and have put hot irons on his head, and no one but General Washington can take them off!" However, I knew I had to give the general more time if he was to make it to safety on the British ship the Vulture. I turned my attentions to Colonel Barrett. "Colonel Barrett, have you ordered my child to be killed?" I ran about in a frenzy, clutching my 6-month-old son Edward in my arms. Barrett adamantly denied it, but I didn't let up. After all, Washington had just arrived. "My child and I are being tortured too. Oh, where is General Washington?" I knew that he was in the room with me. However, when that fact was pointed out, I quite simply responded with, "That is not General Washington. That is the man who's going to assist Colonel Barrett in killing my child." A doctor was brought in, and I was told to lie down. News of my husband's treachery had already reached them, but they detected in no way that I was involved with the plot. In fact, they felt sympathy for me because I had been deceived by my husband. Before I left, I received a letter that had been left behind by the general. It said that I could either go to New York City and join him behind British lines, or return to Philadelphia and start a new life there. I elected to join him and behind British lines in Philadelphia. Dear Hannah, life after my defection to the British has been difficult, but I know I've made the right decision. I retained the same rank in the British Army, and on September 6, 1781, I led my troops in 800 Hessians to attempt to take Fort Griswold and Fort Trumbull in New London, Connecticut. However, this plan turned out less than ideal. After seeing that Fort Griswold was well fortified, I sent a letter to my aides to stop the raid, but I was too late. We won, but it was a bloody battle with too many British casualties for my own good. That was my last big stand. I now must return to London to a depleted income and a small pension to sustain my family. With love, your humble servant, Benedict.